All right, it's 6 p.m. The meeting has started and is being recorded. So Greg, please.
Thanks, Joe. Give a second for everyone to file in. Good evening. My name is Greg Frazier. I am the project manager for the proposed District 5 ADA retrofits at various locations project, which will be presented tonight. I work in the project management section at the Massachusetts Department of Transportation's Highway Division, headquarters in Boston. Welcome to our live virtual design public hearing. During this presentation, we will explain the purpose of the hearing, provide an overview of the right-of-way procedures, and explain the design. Finally, we will explain how you can submit your comments and questions about the project, many of which can be included in the official hearing transcript. But first, I will hand it over to Joe, who will explain how to use our meeting platform, Zoom.
Thanks, Greg. My name is Joe Yu. I'm one of two producers with MassDOT this evening, alongside Kit McLuey. We'll be providing some tech support as well as facilitating questions. So this slide shows our Zoom hearing controls. There's two main ways that you can ask a question or share comments. One is utilizing the Q&A box and typing out your questions and comments. And the other is to raise your hand. For users dialing in with their phones, that method is *9. If you're unable to access the internet or are having technical problems, please call into the meeting at the number shown. Or if you have any trouble with the meeting technology during the presentation, please call into the 888 number you see on the orange box to the right of your screen. Closed captioning is automatically generated by Zoom. And please note that the captions may not be entirely correct. This virtual public hearing is recorded, so Massachusetts Department of Transportation can choose to retain the video, still images, audio, and the chat transcript. By continuing your attendance with this virtual public hearing, you are consenting to participate in a recorded event. All recordings and chat transcript will be considered a public record. And if you're not comfortable being recorded, please turn off your camera, keep your microphone muted, and refrain from chatting in the transcript box. Otherwise, you may also choose to excuse yourself from the hearing entirely. Some other important notes. Please note that your microphone and webcam are automatically disabled upon entering the hearing. This hearing will be open to questions and answers at the end of the presentation, so that's when you can ask to toggle your microphones on and off. There will be a survey at the end of the presentation. Please feel free to fill that out. Once you exit the hearing, your feedback is very important to the success of the department. This slide shows MassDOT's policy on diversity and civil rights. All MassDOT activities, including this public hearing, are free of discrimination. We welcome the diversity from across the entire service area. And if you have any questions or concerns, you may visit the mass.gov website on Non-Discrimination in Transportation Program to reach our Office of Diversity and Civil Rights. All questions and comments are welcomed and appreciated. However, we do request that you refrain from any disrespectful comments. Back to you, Greg.
Thank you, Joe. First, I will go over tonight's agenda, and as I am going over the agenda, you can view the town shaded on the map to the right that will be included in the project. We will go over tonight's panelists, public outreach, purpose of the project, proposed improvements, right-of-way, environmental permitting, construction process and construction impacts, next steps, and then we will hold our questions and discussions. Let me welcome our panelists from Mass DOT who've joined me this evening. As mentioned previously, I am Greg Frazier, the Mass DOT Project Manager, Fiona Vainstein, District 5 Project Engineer, Lisa Zamretta, the right-of-way representative from Mass DOT. Lisa will cover the right-of-way requirements a bit later. Kit McCleary and Joe Yu, who will be our producers and facilitators for this evening. From HDR, we have Matt Goldie, the consultants project manager, to provide a complete verbatim transcript is our stenographer, Melissa Lupo, from Advanced Court Reporting, LLC. A handout has been prepared and posted to the Mass DOT website. In the handout, you will find documentation which may be useful to you in understanding the project and submitting formal comments in response to this presentation. You will see that the notice of hearing is included on page 2 of the handout. The notice was sent to your municipality on July 26, 2023, and coordination will continue as the design progresses. This notice also appeared in the Patriot Ledger, the Herald News, and the Standard Times on August 9th and August 26th. The hearing was also posted to the Mass DOT social media. Thank you as well to the Boston Regional Metropolitan Planning Organization, Old Colony Bay Planning Council, Southeast Regional Planning, and Economic Development District, and the Registry of Motor Vehicles for sharing the notice. Moving forward, the purpose of holding hearings is to provide an assured method whereby the Commonwealth of Massachusetts can furnish to the public information concerning the state's highway construction proposals, and to afford every interested resident of the area an opportunity to be heard on any proposed project. At the same time, the hearings afford the Commonwealth an additional opportunity to receive information from local sources, which would be of value to the state, final decisions to what design should be advanced for development. So how did we get here tonight? In July of 2015, the project started with a statewide survey of pedestrian ramps within the state highway layout. In April 2020, the consultant HDR received the notice to proceed. In May of 2021, the consultant began the preliminary design and coordination. In December of 2022, Mass DOT received the first 25% and 75% combined design submission for review. Now in August of 2023, we are here tonight for the public hearing. Why was the project initiated? The project started with a statewide survey of pedestrian ramps within the state highway layout. Pedestrian ramps were then reviewed for Americans with Disability Act, ADA, and Architectural Access Board, AAB, compliancy and ranked in order of most deficient to least deficient. Deficiencies include uncompliant surface material, vertical alignment of the ramp, the level landing did not have the minimum slope for drainage or had too much slope to not meet the requirements of a level landing. The turning space may also not have been adequately provided. Other factors were running slopes and cross slopes. A reciprocating ramp was missing and did not allow for a pedestrian to safely exit the roadway. In other cases, the detectable warning panels were missing to alert a pedestrian they were about to enter the roadway, or missing an opening altogether. There are also areas with physical obstructions. So what do we want to accomplish? The project objectives are to improve safety and mobility for all users, remove obstructions, and meet ADA compliance while minimizing the right-of-way impacts to the maximum extent possible. What is the proposed design? The next two slides have a list of locations by municipalities. The next three slides have a list of locations by municipalities. But we will get into more detail later in the presentation for each location. We will leave this slide up a moment for all to view. The estimated total project cost is currently about $2.8 million that will come from MassDOT funding 100%. This project must be programmed in the statewide capital improvement program in the appropriate fiscal year in order for MassDOT to solicit bids for eventual construction. The $2.8 million estimate does not include any right-of-way acquisition costs. MassDOT will also be paying for any right-of-way acquisition costs. We anticipate the design to be completed in the winter of 2024, and once begun, the construction to take one construction season. Please keep in mind that the project we are presenting is still in the early design stage. All of your questions and comments will be taken into consideration when completing the project's design. So this slide here is Route 3A at Pond Street in Cohasset. There is also a legend showing that the purple shading on the forthcoming slides are temporary easements. The yellow shadings are taking in fees, and green shadings are permanent easements. Temporary easements are to tie in the back of sidewalk with lumen seed or other surface repairs such as asphalt and concrete. At this intersection, there are no right-of-way impacts anticipated at this time, so you'll note that there are no color shadings. The work being done at this intersection will be similar throughout all the next slides. So I will go into detail of what is shown on this plan and then be a little more brief as we move forward. The lighter line work is what is currently existing today, and the darker, bolder line work is what is being proposed. You will see on the slide that there is a crosswalk crossing Pond Street. There will also be compliant pedestrian ramps shown with a rectangular shading depicting the detectable warning panels. Sidewalk will also be installed to tie in the newly constructed pedestrian ramps and allow pedestrians to ramp down to the shoulder on Route 3A, where there is currently no sidewalk. Here is the northeast corner of the intersection, showing the reciprocating pedestrian ramp of the crossing on Pond Street. The sidewalk on each end will terminate at the driveway openings. Again, there are no right-of-way impacts anticipated at this time in this intersection. As you'll see moving south, there is a crosswalk crossing Route 3A, and the sidewalk will tie into the existing sidewalk on Pond Street, and the other end of the sidewalk will ramp down to the shoulder as seen on the previous slide. Now moving on to the town of Duxbury at the intersection of Route 3A and Evergreen Street, in front of the Holy Family Church. Here you will notice the purple shading depicting a temporary easement. The temporary easement, as mentioned, is needed for restoration of lumen seed following the construction of the sidewalk and the pedestrian ramp. The sidewalk will ramp pedestrians down to the shoulder of Evergreen Street, and a more defined crossing will also be placed on Route 3A as shown. At Route 3A and Route 14, there are no easements needed on this slide, but there are some on the north side, which we will get to in a moment. All the proposed work is similar to as before, so we will keep this slide up for a moment for all to view the proposed work. Here on the northeast corner of the intersection, you will see two shadings. The purple shading for the temporary easement needed to lumen seed at the back sidewalk following construction, and the yellow shading showing a taking in fee. This taking in fee is for an existing Route 14, Route 3A sign that is out there today in the grass. The sign will be remaining in place. Now in the city of Fall River, at Route 79, on and off ramps up near Herman Street. All work is anticipated to remain in the state highway layout currently, so we will move through the next few slides, leaving each up for a moment for all to view the proposed work. Again, all proposed work is similar as before. There are a couple of extra pavement markings above the crosswalk, which are yield symbols. And here we're just moving along south on North Main Street, still at the on and off ramps. And again, just moving south along North Main Street, still at the ramps, providing access through the medians. Still remaining within the state highway layout, crossings through the medians. And finally here at the reciprocating end of the on and off ramps of Route 79, where the proposed sidewalk will tie into the existing on North Main Street. And moving farther south down North Main Street, compliant pedestrian ramps and newly painted crosswalk will be completed for the Route 79 on-ramp. This slide has a little better view of the work being completed. All work is remaining within the state highway layout. The sidewalk on both ends will tie into the back of the existing sidewalk with the use of a variance. The Route 79 on and off ramps at this location is farther south near Weaver Street. More defined and newly painted crosswalks across the ramps. The sidewalk will tie into the existing sidewalk and allow a compliant sidewalk through the medians. Moving in the north direction at this location, and then the reciprocating ramp and level landing on the north side of the Route 79 and off-ramp crossing. Now on to the town of Hingham at Downer Ave and Lincoln Street, Route 3A. There was a little more work involved at this location. The pedestrian ramp, sidewalk, and crossings will all be similar as before, with the proposed sidewalks tying into the existing sidewalk. New pavement markings such as stop lines and double yellow center lines and the white fog lines. On Downer Ave, you will see two squares on the slide in the southbound lane. These are new loop detectors for the traffic signals to detect waiting vehicles. The purple shading is for the temporary easement needed to restore the lumen seed, as well as the mulch in the planting beds at the back of sidewalk following construction. Moving north down Downer Ave, here you will see a temporary easement on the west side of Downer Ave and a permanent and temporary easement needed along the east side of Downer Ave. The permanent easement is for the back of sidewalk, as the proposed sidewalk is slightly wider than the existing. This allows for a compliant width of sidewalk and a level landing at the pedestrian ramp, which we will see on the next slide. This allows for the maintenance and repairs that may be needed over time. The temporary easement on the east side is to restore the loom and the seed at the back sidewalk following construction. And here moving south on the northeast corner. And then moving further south to the southwest corner at Baxter Street. There is a temporary easement needed to restore the lumen seed, the back sidewalk, and it may be hard to see, but there is a small green area where the curvature of the sidewalk crosses the right-of-way line work. This follows the existing sidewalk as it is today, but it will allow for maintenance and future repairs. On the southeast corner, there is a need for both a permanent easement and a temporary easement. The permanent easement is temporary to encompass the back part of the proposed crosswalk curvature around the corner. The temporary easement is to restore the driveway within the shaded area for 170 Lincoln Street and lumen seed as necessary following the construction. There will also be loop detectors replaced in the northbound lane of Thaxter Street for the traffic signals. Here's just showing a bit more of the southeast corner. Here at Route 3A at Tremont Street in Kingston, there will be compliant ramps installed in the island on the north corner. There will also be a newly painted crosswalk across Tremont Street. The temporary easement will also allow the contractor to restore the mulch in the island following construction. I think we just need to back up a slide here. And here on the next slide is the reciprocating ramp on the southeast corner. And now the southwest corner, all remaining within the state highway layout. And similar as before, the next few slides are all within the state highway layout with the same scope of work. So we'll move through these slides and leave each up a moment for all to view. This is Summer Street at Winthrop Street in Kingston. Then we move on to the northwest side of the intersection. And here we are at Summer Street at Maple Street. I'm just moving slightly south, you can see a little bit more of the intersection. And now we're just outside of the Kingston Post Office. A temporary easement will be used here to tie the back of sidewalk up to the existing retaining curb as it is today. The crossing will be newly painted and compliant pedestrian ramps tying into the existing sidewalk. The dash line perimeter in the roadway is to show the limits of mill and overlay to eradicate the existing pavement markings. And that is pretty much, it just scrapes the asphalt off the top and all the line work will get removed. Here's the west side of the intersection. Here's moving north from the post office on the west side, extending the proposed sidewalk through the existing driveway. Currently, we anticipate all the work to remain within the state highway layout. These next couple of slides for Worcester Street, Route 9 at Western Road does not require Summer Street. You can go next slide there, Joe. There we go, sheet 50. All right, now jumping a little further north on Summer Street near the library. The permanent easement on the west side is due to the existing sidewalk extending just outside of the layout line. And here is Summer Street at Center Street with the temporary easement on the west corner. This is to clear back some of the bushes and mulch as necessary to allow the installation of a compliant width of pedestrian ramp. And this slide is just showing more to the east of the intersection, the reciprocating ramp. This location is the north side of Summer Street across from Main Street. Currently, there is a ramp on the southern side of Summer Street, but it doesn't have a reciprocating ramp or crossing for a pedestrian to go. So this crossing allows a pedestrian to get through the intersection with a newly painted crosswalk with high visibility thermal paint and compliant pedestrian ramps. Here's the reciprocating ramp. This slide is showing the proposed sidewalk continuing on from the north side of the main street to Linden Street. There is a proposed temporary easement to restore the walkway for 195 Main Street. This will allow the contractor to have the walkway meet the back of sidewalk without creating a tripping hazard nor ponding water or icing in the wintertime. And then moving east, here's the Linden Street intersection. The permanent easement is for the back of sidewalk to meet the steps of 193 Main Street. A corner of the level landing for the pedestrian ramp is also just outside of the layout. This easement will allow for maintenance and repairs over time, but the steps are not anticipated to be impacted at this time. And now at Main Street and Hillcrest Road. Main Street and Landing Road. Southeast corner of Landing Road. The permanent easement is for the back of sidewalk that is outside of the state highway layout. However, the back of the proposed sidewalk is following the same geometry of the existing back of sidewalk. And a little further south. Continuing down Main Street, here's Riverside Drive. And the reciprocating side. Bonnie Lane and Main Street. Continuing on. Now here we are at the Route 3 ramps, providing a compliant crossing similar to the Fall River 79 ramps. Still remaining within the state highway layout, crossing through the medians. And continuing east. And here we are at the last location of Kingston at the reciprocating side. Now we move on to the town of Marion. The scope will remain the same as well as the color shadings, so I will briefly move through these slides and explaining any permanent easements or taking in fees. This is Mill Street, Route 6, just south of Gifford's Corner Road. On the west side of Gifford Corner Road is just to the bottom of this, bottom right of this slide. Here's a reciprocating ramp along with the ramp for Gifford's Corner Road. And now we move south, or to the left, if you will, of the slide with the proposed sidewalk. Here at Wells Road and Route 6, you will see the two gray lines meeting at a triangular point, which are the layout lines. The existing sidewalk wraps around this corner, similar to the proposed sidewalk. The existing condition currently does not offer a crossing. And then here we are at the reciprocating ramp with the sidewalk wrapping around the corner to Route 6, tying into the existing. The southwest corner of Route 6 and Hermitage Road. The southeast corner. Moving to the north side of Route 6. We're moving further east. There we go. This is the north side. And now just to the east, still at the Hermitage Road intersection. Here in Plymouth, we are now at Satcham Road and Route 3A. Moving east, we'll be tying into the existing sidewalk. This is proposed sidewalk all within the state highway layout, just in front of the Indian Brook Elementary School. And moving south with proposed sidewalk, and we are eradicating the existing crosswalk on this slide. However, a new location for the crosswalk will be shown shortly. The two driveways made it difficult to install compliant ramps at this location with the current grading. And here's a crossing at the Indian Brook Elementary School driveway. The temporary easement is to repaint the pavement markings. Moving further south. And then here you'll see the new location of the crossing just south of the elementary school driveway. And continuing south with proposed sidewalk remaining within the state highway layout. This is back on the east side of the state road, just south of the location of the eradicated existing crosswalk with proposed sidewalk. And continuing south with the reciprocating pedestrian ramp, which is also moved closer to the bus stop. You will see the sidewalk is a little wider as well at each bus stop. Moving south on State Road with proposed sidewalk to Chatham Road. And here on the southeast corner of Chatham Road, there is a permanent easement for the proposed sidewalk that will tie into the existing. Temporary easements to restore existing conditions and provide the stop line. State Road and Colony Beach Boulevard, all remaining in the state highway layout at this time. The proposed sidewalk will continue through the driveway apron for the Word of Christ Baptist Church. And then Warren Ave and Beach Plum Lane with repainting the pavement markings and the proposed compliant ramps. You will also see there's a proposed crossing on Warren Ave just east of the intersection. And here is the reciprocating side with the proposed sidewalk continuing to Cliff Street. And now on to the town of Rockland. Compliant ramps and crossings at the Jefferson Elementary School. Crossing on Market Street from the Jefferson Elementary School. The driveway apron will also be replaced for 275 Market Street. Here's the south side of Wilbur Ave, Route 103 at Maycumber Ave in Swansea. Moving east with temporary easements for restoration. The north side of the intersection also with temporary easements for restoration. And further up Maycumber Ave with 377 Wilbur Ave's driveway apron on the east side being reconstructed with the proposed sidewalk. 391 Wilbur Ave will also need their driveway apron reconstructed with the proposed sidewalk. A temporary easement will allow the grading of the driveway to meet the back of the sidewalk and avoid any lip or ponding at the back of sidewalk. And we'll continue that throughout this whole project in all towns. Here's Wilbur Ave at Gardner's Neck Road. Continuing west with proposed sidewalk on Wilbur Ave, along with the driveway apron for 136 Wilbur Ave, being replaced with the proposed sidewalk. Shifting a little west. And now if you're still with me after all those locations, you may be asking, how will your property be impacted? So let's ask Lisa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa, and I'm from the Right-of-Way Bureau. I represent the right-of-way of the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, Highway Division. The Right-of-Way Bureau is responsible for acquiring all of the necessary rights in private and public lands for the design, construction, and implementation of this project. Affected property owners will be contacted by personnel from the Right-of-Way Bureau or consultants representing the Massachusetts Department of Transportation Highway Division. The procedures used must comply with state and federal regulations governing the acquisition process. The current design plan indicates that a yet to be determined number of fee takings and permanent easements may be required. Other areas may also require temporary construction easements. Affected property owners' rights are protected under Massachusetts General Law Preliminary Chapter 79. If a project is receiving federal funds, the property owner's rights are further defined under Title III of the Real Property Acts of 1970 as amended. I'll be happy to answer any general questions regarding the right-of-way activities during the open forum. Also, I will be available later for any specific questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. So what are the environmental, cultural resource, and community impacts? All project sites in Plymouth and Kingston fall within the habitat range of Plymouth red-bellied turtle, but no impact to these species is anticipated due to the scope of the project. Various project sites are within the habitat ranges for threatened species, such as the red knot, the monarch butterfly, and the roseate tern, but no impact to these species is anticipated due to the scope of the project. Section 4F and historic properties have been identified adjacent to the project sites. However, no adverse effect to these sites is anticipated due to the scope. And those will be reviewed by Mass DOT's environmental section. Locations in Cohasset fall within the bordering land subject to flooding, 200-foot riverfront area, and within the 100-foot or 100 feet of the Peppermint Brook, and bordering vegetated wetland. The location at Mill Street and Giffords Corner Road in Marion is approximately 100 feet from bordering vegetated wetland. The activities of these locations are limited to reconstruction of existing sidewalk and are anticipated to be exempt from WPA regulation. However, environmental coordination is ongoing and will continue with the municipalities. So what is the construction approach? Construction is to begin in the spring of 2025 throughout Mass DOT's District 5. The construction duration is anticipated to take approximately 1 year. The exact construction schedule for each location will be determined upon the awarded contractor. Pedestrian and bicycle impacts on the project. Pedestrian accessibility compliance will be provided throughout the project area, including during construction. Temporary sidewalk and ramp closures will occur in order to reconstruct the new facilities. Temporary pedestrian crossings and pedestrian ramps will be removed during construction. Temporary traffic conditions will be utilized for bicycle lanes adjacent to the sidewalk construction within the project limits. There will be minimal impacts to traffic. Traffic safety and management plans will be reviewed by Mass DOT Traffic, as well as the use of police details. Mass DOT also notifies the local police departments with the plans for review and approval as well. Advanced construction warning signs will be implemented, and police details will be utilized when necessary. Message boards will be implemented on affected roadways. Long-term road closures or detours are not anticipated to occur as part of this project. Our next steps will be to move from the design public hearing and complete the design in the winter of 2024. Construction will then begin in the design of 2025. As of now, the construction is anticipated to be completed in the spring of 2026. And how will we keep you informed? You may access the project website by using a mobile device camera and focusing on the QR code on the slide. You may also access the project website by using the web address www.mass.gov/mass-DOT-highway-design-public-hearings. The last sheet of the handout is a mail-in sheet. If you have any questions or comments which you would like to submit in writing, you may use this sheet for that purpose. You may email or mail it to the department within 10 days of this date, and it will become part of the official record. For mailing correspondence, addressed to Carrie LaValle, PE, Deputy Administrator and Chief Engineer at Mass DOT, 10 Park Plaza, Boston, Mass. 02166, and provide attention project management, project file number 609472. To email questions, comments, or concerns, please email to Mass DOT Project Management at dot.state.ma.us and include a subject line of attention design public hearing webinar comments, project file number 609472. Before we move into public comment, we would like to invite any state, city, and local officials to speak at this time. Are there any public or elected officials who would like to ask questions or provide comment? Please put your title in the question and answer if it is not in your Zoom name so we can recognize you properly. Okay. So I'll hand it back to Joe and Kit, who will explain how to participate in the Q&A.
Thanks, Greg. There are two main ways, like I said, to participate in this Zoom webinar. First being clicking on the raised hand icon, which will allow you to be put on a queue, be unmuted for verbal questions. The short key is Alt-Y. You can also submit your questions and comments using the Q&A button, Alt-H. That allows you to type in your oh, sorry, Greg. Before we move forward, we do have the Old Colony Planning Council member Bill. So William McNulty. We're gonna allow you to say a few words.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So yeah, I just want to thank you for this public hearing and thank MassDOT for this investment in the state layout throughout the region, particularly the Old Colony region. We're very excited to see these improvements, especially in Kingston, where the federal fiscal year 2024, so beginning in October, we're actually doing a corridor study of Route 3A through Kingston. So we'll be working closely with MassDOT District 5 to make sure that all these plans for these improvements are included in that corridor study. But we just want to thank the Commonwealth for the investment in enhancing safety for vulnerable roadway users in our region.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate the comment there, and we're happy you're still planning to include these ramps within your study.
That's right. Thank you very much. Thanks, Greg. Going back to how you can ask your questions and provide comments, like I said, you can click on the Q&A button, which prompts a Q&A box. Type in your questions and comments. When asking a question or a comment, please state your name clearly. And we'd like for everyone to have an equitable time participating. So please feel free to share one comment or question at a time. Limit it to 2 minutes to allow others to participate. Given that we don't have too many people, feel free to take as much as you want for this hearing. If you are on the phone, please dial *9 and the moderator, myself and Kit, will call out the last 4 digits of your phone number and ask you to unmute your audio when it's your turn. As I mentioned earlier in our presentation, there is a survey after this meeting that will pop up when you exit the meeting. Please let us know how your experience was with this virtual meeting using that survey. All questions and comments are subject to disclosure for public records, so please use these functions for project-related businesses only. There was a question from an anonymous attendee, Greg, while you were speaking, asking if the slides will be available following the hearing. I presume that's a yes.
Yep. So we'll post all the slides on the website. Maybe Joe, if you want to back up for a second, allow anyone to do that QR code. If you just use your mobile device or use the website, you can go to that website. We'll post. It might take a couple days for IT to get it on there, but the slides will be on there, and we will also post a recording of this presentation.
Great. Thanks, Greg. So Greg, we'll keep this webinar going until you call it quits, and yeah, we'll leave it open for till your discretion.
Sounds great. Well, yeah, we'll be here for a few minutes, and we'll allow anyone any more questions or comments. Feel free to speak, or if you don't have to speak, you can also just type it right into the Q&A chat. Okay, it looks like that is it for the questions and comments. I would like to thank Kit and Joe for being our facilitators and producers tonight. Matt Goldie from HDR, Lisa from the State Right Away, and Fiona from District 5. Thank you very much for everyone attending this presentation. Going forward, your comments and concerns will be taken into consideration for the design of this project. Just a reminder, a handout for the project, which is posted on the Mass DOT website, summarizes the information we've presented tonight. This handout also contains a form that you can complete and send if you had any additional questions or comments. So thank you again for attending. The meeting is now closed at 6:51 p.m. Good night, everyone.